Hey, listen, if you want to replace some father figure, you can do a lot better than this fat snake, all right? This fucker would eat his own kids.
Like I said, Franklin, deranged.
Yeah.
Given that we've established which GTA characters I like and hate, why not rank the main ones? Being the ones that are playable, the guys you take control of and ideally don't relate to too much. Unlike the previous list, this will be a full ranking, as most games only have one, and I will only be including the 3D and HD eras. Yeah, Chinatown Wars is kind of in the middle, but in the end, you don't get to hear him speak, and that does kind of make a difference. A topic we'll get back to shortly, but for the most part, I don't think this will offend anybody that much. This leaves us with a solid 11, so let's see how they stack up.
Please, amigo. Don't leave me here with her, man. She's psycho, chico, man. Please, amigo.
Yeah, Cloudspeed. Who would have seen this coming? The mute protagonist is something that was quite common back in the day with games like Crash Bandicoot and Jak and Daxter, but for GTA, I don't think it works. Because he doesn't speak, the story potential is very limited, and for the most part non-existent. The entire game is basically you doing something for money because somebody else wants it done, and given that 5, well technically 6 games exist in this universe, it doesn't really make any remote sense.
And deliver them to a garage behind the car park in Newport. My honor demands it.
He does have a few moments, like when he inevitably pays the ransom to save Maria, but even then, it feels like dialogue should be there, as there's no sense to why he'd even care. And the reason for this is because Rockstar had other things to worry about, and felt the main character not having a voice wasn't a big deal. I guess they felt the same way about the plot. Despite the not speaking thing, he does also appear in San Andreas, showing us how Claude and Catalina met, in which the fact that he doesn't talk somehow makes more sense if you consider Catalina's motivations.
You think you're clever, but it is you who is missing the point. Not only was he racing, but he was satisfied. Fully.
It's a valiant effort, but unfortunately, if the main character can't speak, there's not really any discussion. You'd have to fuck up pretty bad to do worse, and in the end, it's just not acceptable for a game that's supposed to have a fucking plot. It may be nostalgic, but in this case, it's not in a good way. The problem is with Victor Vance is despite being a good protagonist, he's not a good GTA protagonist. This is an issue that's gonna get brought up quite often, but for me, the lead characters are supposed to be somewhat bad.
Vic, get to work. Marty, this ain't right. You want to get paid? Be a man. Or are you all hat and no cattle?
Instead, Vic tries to avoid crime until his brother Lance drags him back into it, and he was even in the army before being dishonorably discharged. That's about as off as a lead GTA character could be. Not only does he not feel like GTA, but when he does something bad anyway, like running a drug empire, or committing various crimes because somebody tells him to for money, it doesn't really make any sense. And it's too bad because Vic is very likable and well written, but it's just not what I want from these games. A lot of people may rank him low just because Vice City Stories isn't one of the more popular games, something I don't agree with. But for me, this is solely based on the character itself, and even if the game was terrible, it wouldn't affect this list. His relationship with Louise is actually well done, leading to some of the game's best missions, and the stuff with him and Lance are easily the game's highlights.
Wow! So this is where the coke is going? Up your nose? Hey, Vic! Hey, Vic, what are you doing here?
Despite this, it's still not what I want to see, and I may be one of the few people to prefer the completely different version of him that got killed off at the beginning of Vice City.
100% pure grade A Colombian, my friend.
I'm not gonna hold that against him, even though it makes no sense, obviously, but still, he's not getting any higher. A great character, just not a great GTA character.
And it's all because of you, Vic. You're a hero.
No, I'm an asshole. I spent all my time running around, making morons rich, while my family fell apart and the woman I wanted died waiting for me to call.
One word. Business. Like I told you when you were in there. Or were you so busy playing holier than thou, you started believing your own bullshit?
The same thing can pretty much be said for Johnny Clements, who again doesn't remind me of GTA in the slightest. The Lost and the Damned continue GTA 4's trend of being way darker than it should be, and this game in particular at times is just depressing. Johnny emphasizes this by being the one protagonist that most people probably don't envy.
Well, now that you mention it, I'm starting to feel a little queasy.
He's forced to take jobs from politicians, his love interest is a complete mess. He does eventually become the gang's president, but in the end, the whole thing is just, well, like I said, depressing. He gets a slight edge over Vic for feeling somewhat like GTA due to the gang, I guess, but still, it's not what I want to see.
I ain't sleeping with him. You know, you and me broke up. You was with that Layla girl.
That's all over now, baby. You know that. Man, you gotta get off them drugs.
I know. I will.
Luckily, the Ballad of Gay Tony was a big improvement, getting things back on track, and Johnny's eventual fate in GTA 5 seems like Rockstar's way of telling us they finally remember what GTA is.
Who the fuck are you speaking to? Who? I'm talking to you, huh? Fuck!
He may have been one of the more likable characters, but by no means one of the best.
Mr. Leone, I thought we got history. I mean, I've done a lot for this family. And now you're expecting me to take orders from this... Well, it just doesn't seem right.
Tony Cipriani tends to rank kind of low amongst the fan base, but I don't think he's given enough credit. The main criticism is that he's too loyal to Salvador and doesn't really go beyond that, and while that may be true, I still think he's a good character.
Damn. Ooh, I thought you, said a couple.
I said $1 million. But what? You can put a price on friendship?
LCS probably has the most contained plot of any GTA game, which did make sense given it was a prequel, and a lot of that does have to do with Salvador. This makes him out to be kind of like his minion who does whatever he wants without question, but I don't know if that's a good enough reason to dislike him, cause when you think about it, it does kind of make sense. Granted, it doesn't make him the most interesting, but he does have a lot of cool moments and memorable lines.
I am going to enjoy thrusting my sword into you.
Yeah, I heard that about you.
Unfortunately, what brings him down for me, and the reason he isn't a spot higher, because he almost was, is the way he's portrayed in GTA 3. Yeah, that game did come out first, but I would have preferred if they just made up somebody new, because I don't see why he'd end up like this.
No, son of mine gets to play some triads.
Sorry, Ma. Yes, Ma.
Vic Vance was completely different too, but that was just for a moment, while with this, he's somebody who gives you missions and appears in multiple cutscenes. It may not be completely their fault, but I just really can't stand this kind of thing. It's not as bad as Donald Love being changed for no reason, but I just don't like it.
And it's all your fault.
My fault?
Oh, yeah.
My fault.
That being said, he's still a great protagonist, and if not for this, could have been a lot higher.
I understand that as long as I work for you, I get treated like a bitch. Well, look, I was making scores while you were looking up girls' skirts. Have your bitch job back, boss. I quit.
Oh, shit. Here we go again. Worst place in the world. Rolling Heights baller country.
So now we have something to piss everybody the fuck off, but it is what it is. Carl Johnson is simply not one of GTA's best protagonists.
Are you out of your fucking mind?
He's okay and decent enough, but it's more than obvious that his popularity is due to being in this game. Like San Andreas itself, there's not really much of a storyline to be found. Once you get past the Los Santos section, it's mostly just whatever excuse the game comes up with to take you to the next area. It's one of the game's problems that few people ever address, and CJ is kind of the same deal. His only real character trait is wanting to do something beyond Grove Street, but even that only happens because random events make it happen.
That mute asshole, that fucking snake without a tongue, gave me this shithole instead of a pink slip. I must be the biggest fucking idiot in the whole fucking world.
He's also the first protagonist to have any kind of morality, such as questioning their attack on the Ballas' funeral, but luckily it's never taken too far. That's the main reason he's not any lower. He does feel like a proper GTA protagonist, just not a very interesting one. Even a moment like this, after finally taking down Tenpenny, just doesn't have much of an impact.
Far out, man. You know, I mean, you beat the system. I tried for 30 years to cross over, but you managed it, man. I mean, man, you're an icon, man.
Oh, thanks, man.
You may have noticed by now that I haven't mentioned that many HD games, and that's because for the most part they have better leads. I do want to emphasize that I don't hate CJ, he just doesn't do anything to stand out amongst the HD titles, which for the most part do this kind of thing better.
You an asshole to the end, punk motherfucker.
Fuck, man, my whole fucking life I've been looking after this motherfucker and paying the price afterward. Fuck.
Well, at least do it one more time, Franklin, for me.
For you? For you and your doctor?
And Franklin Clinton is essentially CJ, but done a lot better. The reason nobody else thinks that is because even though GTA 5 is obviously the better game, Franklin is one of 3 main characters while CJ is the only main character, so that's gotta be their reasoning. But when it comes to a protagonist whose main objective is to move up in life and be something, I think that kind of thing works better when it's not the main focus.
What do you want?
Man, I'll come by for that drink you offered, that's all.
I wasn't really serious about that.
Unfortunately, it also means Franklin is a lot less interesting than Michael and Trevor, easily making him the least memorable, but given that it's GTA 5, that's still not a bad thing. He's definitely the most decent of the 3, opposed to being insane or an asshole, but he's still willing to commit crimes without a second thought, so there's no issue there.
The pay will be awful, and the risk will be high, but you might learn something, if you're interested.
Man, that's not exactly a great sales pitch, dog, but I guess I gotta start somewhere.
GTA 5's 3-character system was a great idea. I'm a bit disappointed GTA 6 is only gonna have 2, and I think the varying personalities is what made this concept so good. It's just that Franklin isn't as memorable as the other 2, nor is he as entertaining. I'm still okay with that, as I like them being different, and in the end, the overall storyline is still very satisfying. That being said, a few others are gonna be a bit higher.
Man, you know what? Man, fuck you.
Whatever you say, buddy. Unfortunately, for hitting my friend, I'm going to kick the shit out of you.
Okay, so now we're gonna get into outright maddening territory and place Nico Bellic only in the 5th spot. The reason for this should be obvious at this point, but I will say he's probably the best written protagonist.
I know the traitor was not me. So for 10 years, I've been searching for the other 2.
I don't think anybody expected GTA 4's lead to do anything like this, and it is commendable that he's written so good. Normally, this is when I'd say he doesn't belong in a GTA game, but in this case, I'd hardly call this a GTA game. I am not a big fan of the serious tone GTA 4 decided to take, and if you combine that with the abysmal driving and not very good shooting mechanics, it's one of my less favorite games.
Real? What the fuck is real? Real because it's you?
Real because it's my last chance!
Then good luck.
Unlike Vice City Stories, though, he does fit the game, one of the reasons he's much higher, and his overall motivations do make a lot more sense. So, to avoid repeating the same thing, I will say, as a standalone game, I have very few negatives about his character. Unfortunately, it is a GTA game, and having to choose between your best friend or love interest being assassinated, followed by an empty revenge-themed conclusion, is not what I come to this franchise for.
I know some of those guys. And they thought you were a fat fucking joke.
So, in conclusion to this controversial segment, I love Nico. Always have. But there are 4 other characters that perfectly encapsulate what GTA is and fit the protagonist mold perfectly. It's hard to deny that Nico definitely isn't that.
You didn't change the game. The game changed you.
Oh, I've done a deal with the wrong devil, man. I'm such an idiot.
Things have been bad before, man. You get us out of it. I fight, you plot, together we get out of it.
Sure, but we've never been this fucked before.
And similar to how Nico perfectly fit GTA 4's dark, depressing tone, Louise Lopez, well, does the exact same thing, but The Ballad of Gay Tony is the first HD GTA game to know what the fuck GTA is. I am a huge fucking fan of this expansion. I'll take it over the main game any day, and while Louise is definitely not as good or memorable as Nico, he is what a GTA protagonist should be. That is, sex, drugs, and violence, blowing up half the city for self-benefit, and not giving a damn about human life because that's what this franchise is. Not to mention, his personality is pretty damn perfect.
Feel it. Let's go. Oh. Yo, what's wrong with you, man?
Due to this being an expansion, there's not a whole lot to him. He's well in 4th place, I'll tell you that much. But if he'd been given a full game, that could have easily changed. Unlike Johnny Clemens, who was definitely fitting for a game of that length, Louise could have easily been one of the franchise's best with a bit more development, and even so, he still kind of is.
Boy, is this a joke, man? I mean, you're the guy that needs to learn something. Shit, you're awful, bro. Hey, maybe someone can teach you the most basic human behavior.
It's obvious that developers nowadays are afraid of making new IPs in fear of not making enough money, but Louise and every other protagonist that came after is an example of why GTA has to stay what it is. The Ballad of Gay Tony's done this perfectly, his only flaw being not enough game, and hopefully GTA 6 can give us something like this. Opposed to the woke PC, politically driven nonsense it might end up being, and if you don't think that could happen, well, you're ignorant.
You can't shoot me! You'll blow a whole plane up! I'll take my chances.
This'll make me the most dangerous man in the country. I'm also the most shit scared.
This was a painfully difficult decision to make, but number 3 is Michael DeSantis, who is the most deplorable protagonist of any GTA game, has absolutely no conscience, and will screw over his friends with no second thought. But unlike other franchises that like to display psychopathic actions as justifiable and stupid behavior as reasonable, GTA 5 makes it clear that all 3 main characters are bad people, so it actually makes sense. Thing is, Michael is a bit worse, as he actively knows he's a terrible person and isn't particularly proud of it.
Even on the way over here, I think I killed somebody. And you know what? I don't care. I'm sick, Doc. I'm a sick, hypocritical fuck.
For this reason, a lot of people consider him to be one of the worst, but I don't, and you should know what the reason is for that by now. He's one of the most comedic characters too. The stuff with his family is absolute gold.
Bike ride then. Bike ride? You want to go on a fucking bike ride? Fine, let's go on a fucking bike ride.
And he even gets to torture Laszlo and tattoo a dick on his chest. Personally, I didn't mind him on the radio, but in this game he definitely had that coming. He is lacking in the likable department, as in lying to Trevor throughout the whole game, attempting to kill him, and even assisting Franklin in killing him if you for some reason choose that ending. And honestly, I have no issue believing he'd do that, as unlike Trevor, loyalty is something he doesn't have in the slightest.
Brad got shot. You saw it. He didn't make it. I got shot. I did. That's it.
But on the bright side, we do share an agreement in culture, that being the art of filmmaking, which nowadays is all but dead. I absolutely love the fact that Michael gets a mission strand devoted to this, and watching Molly get her comeuppance is one of the game's highlights.
My wife got screwed by a yogi. And now I'm getting screwed by a yogi? Fuck that! I'm a producer! Nobody fucks with my film!
A decent person he is not, but in this case, I don't give a damn. It's a game that I'm tired of naming, and Michael is a character that almost got a bit higher, but this particular game has one protagonist I like a bit more.
You can jerk me off if I get bored. I'm joking. You can suck me off.
The CEO of Trevor Phillips Industries, or Enterprise, or Corporation, is a fucking deranged, unhinged maniac. He's also not a real person holding a machete to somebody's neck for wanting to ask a question, so easily second best. That being said, a lot of people may put him real high just because he's insane, and that seems to fit GTA, but that's only part of what makes him so good.
Hey, let's go do something about the thing, okay?
What thing?
Yeah, he's entertaining as hell, a majority of the game's comedy comes from him, but what's commonly overlooked is his loyalty. The fact that he's the only protagonist of the three that you can count on not screwing you over. For somebody who literally eats people, that's saying something. Only GTA could make somebody like him this likable and sympathetic, as he has some moments that are genuinely sad.
Sorry, it's everyone I love. Brad is me. I am not abandoning you.
It's also worth noting that Trevor forgave Michael for all of his bullshit, even though he probably shouldn't have, and will not assist Franklin given he chooses to kill Michael. Mildly enough, both characters will be mad at you if you choose to kill the other, which is especially bad in Michael's case. But unlike Michael, Trevor will not forgive you after, and your friendship is essentially ended. It's these qualities that make him so good, something that GTA 6 is going to have a hard time topping, and honestly, I don't see it happening.
We are Scooter Brothers! Scooter Brother!
Trevor is literally perfect, his personality traits are masterfully balanced, and he's the only protagonist to kill another protagonist, or in my case, the bad GTA era, but only one character could possibly be better, and it's for a very simple reason.
Now go! I need to meditate. Or masturbate. Or both.
Bribery? Screw bribery. I'll show you how to make them scared. I'll be back here in 5 minutes.
The way I look at it, the 3D era has the best side characters. The HD era has the best main characters. And Tommy Vercetti is the exception. The aforementioned reason why he's the best is, for the most part, everything that made Trevor so good. He's likable, comedic,
No, I think you're playing plenty stupid enough for both of us. Hey!
undoubtedly loyal, such as going to save Lance despite him being an idiot, and of course has no issue committing crimes, perfectly willing to go on a literal rampage to get a biker gang for a band's security. But this is nothing new though. The reason Tommy gets the #1 position is because he's not a psychopath.
Shocking.
Unlike Trevor, Tommy has every quality you could possibly want in a GTA protagonist, and they did it without making him mentally insane. Yeah, he'll kill you without a second thought, but he's also very rational. He goes from wanting to get the money back to basically building an empire, something not really seen in any GTA game, and despite GTA 5 still being the best, nothing can top this game's ending.
Save face and run away with my tail between my legs!
No. I just wanted to piss you off before I kill you.
I know, Scarface clone, but the conclusion is clearly a lot different. Sonny is unfortunately not a very good villain, but given the game's storyline, you really don't need one. I brought up the plot a few times in this because it tends to tie into the main protagonist and his motivations.
Things are starting to come together nicely here.
What's the plan, Tommy? Que pasa, amigo?
The plan is you keep doing that like a moron.
The fact that people think San Andreas has a better storyline and protagonist is just insane to me, and Vice City is still something that has not been outdone in those categories by any GTA game. To top it all off, he's also kind of a badass, and has a human side too.
I used to spend the evenings with him cleaning the rollers. I was gonna follow him in his trade, but I lived a different life.
It's the kind of thing you could easily miss, and is taken about as far as something like that in this franchise should be. He also has one of the best backstories. The late Ray Liotta completely nailed it, and if possible, I wish we could bring some A-list voices back into this. Maybe a bit less authentic, but if we could get anything like this again, which I find doubtful, I feel it may be worth it. Tommy Vercetti is the best, he will always be the best. If you don't agree, that's fine, but if Carl Johnson is the one you like better, I respectively think you're out of your fucking mind.
Ain't it just beautiful?
And that concludes the ranking of all the GTA protagonists from the 3D and HD eras. If you don't agree, which I know you won't, it's okay. Leave your comments down below in a respectful manner, and I'll get back to you. I'm the Game Analyst, and don't forget, loyalty is everything. And if you eat human stew, it's still kind of relevant. Oh, what? You're actually here? That's fucking amazing. I guess you may as well check out the main channel, in which I discuss movies, TV series, and the offensive topics that lie within. If you're into that, then press the link in the description. It's right there.